Hey everyone, there is a new episode of my Patreon exclusive podcast, Maybe You Can Relate, available now to the patrons of the Rural Woman podcast. You can get access to this full episode, plus extended episodes and patron-only episodes of the Rural Woman podcast when you join the patron community over on Patreon at tier 10 or higher. Here's your sneak peek of the new Maybe You Can Relate episode. Hey folks, I'm Katelyn Dubin. You may know me from such podcasts as the Rural Woman podcast, which you happen to be a proud member of the Patreon community, which is why you are hearing me through your earbuds right now. I'm coming to you from behind the mic in the Rural Woman podcast studio for this exclusive patron-only podcast to share with you a bit more about me, my personal life, our farm, my family, the wins, the struggles, really just a little bit of everything. I wanted to create a space to share my story with a more intimate audience to build a stronger connection. My goal here is to share about the things I've learned, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And maybe, just maybe, you can relate. You are in for a treat. I'm sharing my presentation from the Williams County Soil Conservation District 5th Annual Ladies' Night when I was in Williston, North Dakota in July of 2022. It was great to listen back to my presentation and really take some of my own notes of having to stop and smell the roses. So I hope you enjoy this special presentation of the rebroadcast of my presentation. And my friends, I hope you have some time to stop and smell the roses. Enjoy. I thought to myself, okay, Katelyn, this is your time to shine. Word association is probably one of my favorite things to do, like to kind of make things work. Like, you know, the 7 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon, we're going to have like 7 degrees of separation between smelling roses. So we're going to have fun with this. So before I get too far into it, when I thought of roses before December 31st, 2016, my wedding anniversary date, I always thought of these kinds of roses. And that's actually my wedding bouquet. I thought, you know, you go to the store, you buy these flowers, you make them pretty. This is what roses are. Well, now when I think of roses, I get to think of the roses that grow in my beautiful backyard. So those ones are a little worse for wear, but you know, when I think of myself, I think that's my kind of rose right there. Something that I've always thought was really kind of an incredible thing that I never really thought of before I got to the farm was how things actually grow. And what I mean is, you know, you put the seed in, you care for the seed, it grows. And if it's a perennial, it's going to come back the next year. But the thing is, and it's specifically about wild roses too, they're not always in bloom. So when we're thinking about, you know, our lives in general, you know, we can't always be in bloom. There has to be a time to rest, and there has to be a time to look a little shaggy like the ones out front and really rejuvenate yourselves. So I think it's really important to acknowledge for all of you that you have taken this time for yourselves tonight to be here. I told myself in that time that I was scared again, but I figured it out. I got the GPS to engage. I got it to do all of the things it was supposed to do. And that was the day, that was the field that I knew that I was going to be a farmer. And I knew that even though I was scared, I was going to figure it out, because I've done things a lot harder, or thought were harder, like driving a lawnmower to swathing an entire field. And I'll never forget that day, because that's the day I knew that I was going to give my notice for my job. And the sun was setting. I was standing on the deck and looking at the sun setting over the field that I had just swathed all by myself. And I didn't hit anything.
This week's episode of the Rural Woman Podcast is brought to you by the patrons of the Rural Woman Podcast. This amazing group of individuals contribute financially to the Rural Woman Podcast to ensure the stories of women in agriculture hit your earbuds each and every week. Want to join them in supporting the stories of women in agriculture while getting access to extended episodes, patron-only episodes, and other great perks? Head on over to wildrosefarmer.com to learn more about how you can become a patron through Patreon. Thanks for listening to the Rural Woman Podcast. The Rural Woman Podcast is more than just a podcast. We are a community. A huge thank you to the Rural Woman Podcast team, audio editor Max Hofer, and admin support from Kim & Co. Online. A special thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Sarah Riedner from Happiness by the Acre and Carrie Munven from Laystone Farms. To learn how you can become a Patreon executive producer or other ways to financially support the show, head on over to wildrosefarmer.com to learn more. Be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episodes directly on your playlist. And if you are loving the show, please be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other platform that accepts ratings and reviews. You can connect with us on social media at the Rural Woman Podcast and with me at Wild Rose Farmer. One of the best ways you can support the show is by sharing it. Send this episode to a friend or share on your social media. Let's strengthen and amplify the voices of women in agriculture together. Until next time, my friend, keep sharing your story.